It's horrible. But what are you gonna do about it?
Something.
One person's trash is another person's treasure, right? Let's dive into ANDI MACK Season 3, Episode 16 and discuss all the feelings that were finally let out. What's going on, you lovely people? Lisa here, and welcome back to another ANDI MACK episode of What Happened. I have to apologize that this didn't go up right after the episode, but every now and then I kind of sometimes have a life. But to be honest, I was just at the theater again seeing Avengers Endgame because, let's face it, I wanted that poster and I wanted to beat Avatar. So yeah, that's why this didn't go up as timely. Plus, I've been really busy helping launch a company called Shared Media. I know that kind of sounds a little similar to Shine On Media, but it's called Shared Media. And if you want to check that out, I have links down in the description. It's something that I helped launch with a bunch of people that I worked with at Clever. So if you know Lily Marston, Jocelyn Davis, there's a news channel, there's a collaboration channel with those two that I might also be on occasionally. So go check that out. That's what's been taking up a lot of my time and why I'm behind on a lot of things that you guys usually watch on my channel. But thank you for being super patient with me. But now let's get back to the why you're here and talk about ANDI MACK. So this episode, we take a step back from the Tyrus and Kira drama of last episode because, let's face it, they gotta spread this out so they can keep us watching until the end of the show. But we do get other major relationship drama this time when it comes to Bex and Bowie and Amber and Jonah. Plus, the show takes us to another teaching moment, covering an important issue about stereotypes when it comes to ANDI. So, where should I start? Let's start with our young love first. Last episode, Amber told ANDI that she was in love with Jonah, and ANDI was stuck playing the love guru, trying to tell Amber maybe it's not quite a good idea to tell Jonah you love him yet, because let's face it, Jonah's kind of oblivious to this whole thing. He didn't even want to call ANDI his girlfriend, so I don't think he's ready for the love word. Well, this episode, Jonah wins tickets to the local go-karting facility, invites Amber along, and she's just so overwhelmed that he wants to hang out with her, and she is struck by that love bug, and she ends up blurting this out.
I would love you too. I would love to.
And well, since Jonah didn't freak out hearing the L word in that way, Amber's ready to up the ante here and actually tell Jonah she loves him. And ANDI again continues to tell Amber maybe it's not such a good idea, but let's face it, there's no stopping Amber when her heart tells her what to do. Well, the go-karting date goes pretty good, and Amber is a master crushing it, beating Jonah, and she's in a really good mood. So when the two sit down to eat, we get the classic movie TV scenario. When you're about to say something super important, something really loud goes by and you gotta say it multiple times, or it just keeps happening and the other person doesn't hear what you say and you end up giving up, right? Well, just as Amber goes to say I love you the first time, a loud go-kart goes by. So then she has to say it a second time, but another go-kart goes by, and she thinks Jonah didn't hear her since he's like, oh, a second round? Yeah, let's go. But we know as viewers, the look on Jonah's face, we're pretty sure he heard it. After the date, Amber fills ANDI in on what happened, and ANDI convinces Amber maybe it's a blessing in disguise because you can only tell someone something major like I love you once, and you can't untell them if something goes wrong and they don't respond well to it. So Amber decides maybe she's ready to focus on just making this relationship work and not messing it up this time. Well, ANDI finds Jonah at the record store because she needs something for her art project from him, a frisbee, and it turns out that he did hear Amber say I love you, and he just pretended to not hear it, and he knows that excuse won't work next time he sees Amber, and well,
I'm not gonna say it back. I still don't like saying the word girlfriend. Why can't it just be fun? Why does it have to be love? If that's how she feels, then I'm gonna have to break up with her.
I mean, I'm pretty sure we all saw this coming, right? ANDI even saw it coming. She tried to warn Amber. I mean, the boy couldn't say the words girlfriend. He just smiles all the time. He's not there for commitment. I mean, he's what, 13, 14, something like that? At that age, you can't really expect him to be like, yeah, give me a committed girlfriend. I'm falling in love. So I know I've kind of been hard on Jonah, but the feelings that he has, I feel like are pretty realistic. And Amber is, what, a year older or so? So she's maturing faster than him. I could see why she'd be having these first love feelings. But for him, he's just a kid who's figuring out what dating is, right? I mean, he does need to realize that he should maybe not date at this point in time. I think he just needs to, give people a heads up that, hey, maybe we can hang out, date, but I'm not looking for that committed relationship yet. But Amber, we know she is going to be devastated and heartbroken, so I am not looking forward to that, and I do kind of feel bad for Andy being stuck in the middle. So the other messy relationship drama we got to touch on this episode is Bex and Bowie. So they obviously called off the wedding, but the wedding is kind of haunting them in ways. It's looming over them and definitely eating away at Bowie in particular. So they kind of got to discuss where they're going to put this snow globe that Cece gave them and whether they should keep wearing these rings if they're not engaged or going to get married. But basically, all the feelings come to a head when Bex goes to Cece's to return the wedding dress, and Bowie happens to be there working on the plans. Bex asks Bowie if he wants to see the dress since they're not going to get married, and Bowie does decide, yeah, let's see the dress, and then he immediately regrets it and is overcome with emotion as he pictures what Bex would look like in that dress, and he says that one day he pictures Andy getting married in that dress as well, and how he basically wishes they were getting married. And well, Bex is like, well, you weren't too clear on it because you said you were fine with not getting married, but then Bowie's kind of like got the receipts here, and he's like, well, I thought it was pretty clear I wanted to marry you when I left tour early, a world tour at that, to propose to you, and all of this stuff. And it's just kind of a lot of confusion on their point about where each other actually stood emotionally, and both of them not wanting to hurt the other's feelings. You know, Bowie wanting to make Bex happy, and if she didn't want to get married, then he said that was fine, even though he really wanted to get married. And then you got Bex being like, well, Bowie said he didn't want to get married, so I guess he's agreeing with me, so I'll just go along with it. When she probably, if he had said he wanted to get married, maybe they would have compromised something. So it's a case of people not really expressing how they truly feel and bottling that up and then letting it just blow up and then turn into a huge miscommunication, and just kind of like people not letting people know what they want, which just ends up being a worse situation. All I know is I have a feeling they'll work something out and we will end this show with a wedding. I mean, that's at least my high hopes here. Okay, now for our last storyline dealing with Andy and tackling stereotypes. So the kids are given community service as their punishment for that whole mint chip sidewalk sale trash up thing that happened last episode. Now, while Buffy, Jonah, and Cyrus aren't too thrilled because, well, they're picking up trash, and I don't blame them, Andy is ecstatic seeing this as a gold mine for art supplies. I mean, as the title suggests, one girl's trash is another girl's treasure, and I mean, it's kind of like how you look at things in life, right? What one person looks as something horrible, someone sees the bright side of it. Well, after that, we head to school with Andy, and we actually get to see Andy inside of a classroom where the kids are learning something, which I don't think we've actually done a ton of on this show. But the teacher has the kids do an exercise, draw the name of another student, and then describe that student without saying what they look like and have the others guess to see just, you know, kind of how well people know each other. And when one student describes Andy, she's not too pleased with how they do it.
I threw a really cool party once. I'm probably good with computers. And I play the violin or piano.
And, well, Andy ends up expressing her frustration to Buffy and Cyrus because the girl that described her, she's gone to school with since they were little kids, so she thought that there would have been something better than an Asian stereotype of, like, maybe she likes computers or maybe she plays these instruments that this girl could have described her as. Now, last recap, when I talked about this promo, there was a comment someone left that was kind of like, oh, those aren't even mean stereotypes. She's overreacting. She shouldn't be mad about those. But that's not the point. While yes, these were not mean stereotypes. They were just kind of like, oh, she must like computers or she must play this kind of an instrument. It's still something that you could see why Andy would be offended by if these are kids that she thought she knew or that they knew her because she is observant. Maybe she's more observant than they are. But there were other big things that happened at school that she was like, why didn't they mention that? Oh, I helped with a protest to change, school dress code, or I have quirky fashion, or I'm crafty. Something that's blatantly right there in front of you that, like, she didn't see. So that's kind of where this frustration from Andy is coming from, and I can see that. I mean, look, we all deal with stereotypes. There obviously are some ethnicities that deal with more severe and hurtful stereotypes or genders or whatever it is. But there's the little ones, the surface level ones that, like, hey, I'm Asian, I'm a woman, but I'm actually not a bad driver. Trust me on that one. But that is something that people would assume about you, right? So, I mean, I think it's just a matter of, like, us opening our mind, being more observant to people and not just rushing to conclusions, right? Or to stereotypes. And Cyrus, when he's talking to Buffy and Andy, does kind of make a good point, though, that, trying to see where other people could be coming from as well.
She probably thought she was complimenting you. People say hurtful things without even realizing it.
Now, either way, Andy decides she's going to make everyone at school see her, so she begins this massive art project utilizing all the trash she found and other things that are important to her, like the jail costume, the bracelets from the experiment, a frisbee from Jonah, and she puts all of this together and builds this art installation in the hallway at school, or in the foyer at school. And when someone looks at the art at surface level, it seems like just a bunch of trash. But then Andy takes Cyrus and Buffy to the top of the stairs to get a new perspective.
It looks better from up here.
Andy! Wow!
And as the project says, or is titled, Trashing Stereotypes, do you see me now? Well, when you go up to the top to look at this big old pile of so-called trash, you see a portrait of Andy, and everybody is impressed, including the teacher and, well, honestly, me. I think the way that Andy handled her frustration is such a great way to show, channel some anger that you have or differing viewpoints that you have into something positive, because not everyone's going to see you the way you think you should be seen. Some people aren't going to agree with you on certain topics. Educate people in a positive manner. Don't cut them down, right? I think that, even though, like I said, we're touching on the surface level of very minor stereotypes here, it's a lesson to learn for when you think about those real harmful stereotypes that cut deep, and how, it's a good teaching lesson for kids to learn this kind of stuff at a young age, and then also for us adults who kind of just forget sometimes. And now I just feel like I'm getting preachy, and I don't know, maybe just thinking too much about this episode. But yeah, that's pretty much the meat of this week's episode. We have Amber telling Jonah that she loves him and thinking he doesn't hear her, so she thinks she has a second chance and then will slow down to not mess up the relationship. But unfortunately, Jonah has heard it and wants to break up with her. Bowie finally reveals to Bex that he actually did want to get married, but he also wants her to be happy, so he's kind of torn in what to do. And well, Andy now feels seen. So what's coming up next?
Where did you learn to do this?
Nowhere. It's basically a collage. What am I looking at?
Shady Side Academy of Visual Arts. I think you should apply.
I feel like this Andy Art School application storyline could be setting up maybe for how we wrap up the show and the series as a whole. Honestly, with the time, we don't know what grade I feel like we're at anymore, or how much time has passed since the show started, but I feel like they're either in 7th or 8th grade by now, right? Probably 8th. So it could make sense to have the show end with the kids going off to enter high school. Andy possibly going off to an art high school, and it could be like, okay, here we are. The show's wrapped up. We're closing the book on this middle school set of adventures, and now we're seeing these kids go off to high school where they'll have a bunch more adventures, and we will just have to imagine how that story continues.
This is Rachel, my girlfriend.
Oh, you're real.
I'm sorry, what?
That was unpleasant.
Is that about you?
And for the other big part of this next episode, we finally meet Marty's girlfriend, and as Buffy says, she's real. And sorry for all you theorists out there who thought it could be Kira. It's not Kira. But this girl seems to share something in common with Kira. She doesn't like Buffy. Now, we don't know if she doesn't like Buffy because she's jealous of Buffy and Marty's friendship, or because she didn't even know that Marty had a friend who was a girl, or how this is going to work. But lots of young relationship drama, and I'm excited to see how that plays out. So I'm pretty sure that's it for this week's recap of ANDI MACK, you guys. What did you think of this week's episode? What did you think of the show tackling the whole stereotypes thing? Are there any stereotypes that you kind of have to deal with? How do you handle that? Or what do you think about Bex and Bowie? Do you think that they will get married at some point on the show? And are you excited for this Marty Buffy girlfriend storyline? Let me know all your thoughts and theories and all that good stuff down in the comments. After that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, so you don't miss any of my recaps or any of my interviews or any other weird things I decide to put on this channel. But thank you guys for hanging out with me, for always being patient with me, and chatting about nerdy stuff like this. I'll see you next time.